Hi COS 133, it's Donna Burke, and I'm going to show you today a tool you could use to do your Chapter 5 study skills presentation. You can use the software, it's free, that I'm using. It's called Screencast-O-Matic. You can use that. You can use some other kind of device to record yourself, or you could use narration function in PowerPoint. And we have a video on our course on Module 5 showing you how to do a narrated PowerPoint. So you could choose any of those options. But I at least want to hear you. I would love to see you do your presentation, and your classmates could do it. So I'm going to show you an example of how to do a presentation using the software. So today we're going to be talking about, let me go back to my first slide. We're going to be talking about Chapter 5, which is Learning and Studying Effectively. So in the chapter, it talks about deep memory and learning, and we're talking about deep learning versus just cramming or being sort of what we also call a surface learner. We're going to get to that in a second. But deep learning requires you to move information that you're learning for courses from your short-term memory, which is susceptible to forgetting, to your long-term memory, so you can recall it not just for exams, but when you get in your field that you're going to be working in, a lot of the information you're learning now is going to become important. So being able to use that information. The textbook also talks about a couple of different types of learners. What kind of learner are you? There are surface learners that maybe just sort of skimming through the information, just kind of not really going very deep. Maybe you're barely reading the textbook. Hopefully that's not the case in our class. And then there's strategic learners that are trying to learn for maybe a test or to get an actual assignment done. That's all you're really kind of taking in. And then there are deep learners, and many of you fall into this category where you're really taking in the information in the chapter, relating it to your own experience, and relating to how you can be a better student. So a lot of you in this class are falling into that deep learner category, and I couldn't be more pleased. So here are some strategies for moving information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. So start by reviewing the new information immediately. So things you learned in class or on videos, or if you're reading a textbook, reviewing that information as soon as you can. And then studying it for short periods of time and also smaller amounts of material. Know that your brain cannot take in and process lots of information all at once. So breaking it down. And then using repetition. So repeating things over and over again. So using flashcards, it's a great idea to use repetition and get information going to your long-term memory. So some strategies that can improve memory: incorporating visual aids, such as, like I said, flashcards, creating diagrams, pictures. That will help your mind work better to remember the information. And then you could also create what's called mnemonics. Those are little phrases, little rhymes, things that you develop to remember a concept or terms. Many of you might remember Roy G. Biv, and that's how we remember the colors of the rainbow. And there's other kinds of devices that you can create where you take the first letters of things and create some rhyme or something that you know, an acronym that can help you remember the concepts. Getting good quality sleep. We don't think about this, but sleep actually helps the memory. It's sort of like a reboot for the brain. It throws out stuff during sleep that you don't need to remember, and it moves other stuff to long-term memory. So getting good uninterrupted sleep is absolutely vital. And then connecting new information to information you already know, making associations. Your brain wants to make associations with information. It does want to put things sort of in categories. So help the brain out by trying to make those associations. That could be really helpful. And so, I skipped one, sorry. The next one is note-taking. And sometimes we don't think of note-taking when we're taking courses online or remote. We're not really thinking about note-taking, but taking notes from what you read, your textbook, watching a video, it's really important. And try to stay organized with your notes. Use visual cues for yourself, maybe making some, like we said, diagrams or pictures, and then grouping similar concepts together. That all helps with memory. And as you're taking notes, try to make them legible so that at least you can read them, and you may need to copy them over to do that. That's a good strategy. So reading, a lot of times textbook reading in college can be daunting. Textbooks in college are not easy to read, but most textbooks come with a summary, either in the beginning or the end of the chapter. So previewing the chapter before you really dive into it to read it. So reading the chapter summary, going through and look at the headers, see what's in there, and then sit down to actually read it. A lot of textbook chapters, could be 20, 30 pages. Don't try to sit down and read it all at once. Break it up into chunks, 5 pages, taking notes as you read, 10 pages, that kind of thing. And then summarize it. Maybe create chapter summary notes, and then you can review those. Some people like to highlight while they read. Just make sure you're not highlighting the whole page, because that doesn't make any sense. You might as well just go back and read the whole page. So trying to read actively and take notes can be really important in helping your ability to learn. Number one thing I hear from students is about test anxiety. And it is a real phenomenon where you could either from perceived or real fear of not performing well on an exam exhibit symptoms such as, sweating, crying, panicked feeling, heart racing. So there's definitely some things to do. And the number one thing is test preparation. Being prepared for your test can really help. I'm not sure why this icon came up as a cocktail. I have no idea. Don't drink cocktails while you're preparing for your exam, but ask about the exam. Send a professor an email saying, what kind of questions, what are you looking for in essays? Get to know your professor's testing style. Take an inventory of your notes. Set up a study schedule before the test. Try to keep your diet consistent. So, not eating something that could upset your stomach, not necessarily over-exercising or making yourself tired, but getting your usual exercise, and definitely getting regular sleep. And then making a 5-day study plan. What that entails is backing yourself up at least a week before an exam to what you're going to review and how you're going to prepare for it can make you much more prepared. And when you're prepared, that helps to reduce your anxiety. Another really important topic in Chapter 5 is the writing process. Writing for college is very different. And so just making sure that you know what the paper is asking for, doing your research, possibly developing either a thesis statement, which is like your sort of main idea, working idea, and then creating an outline. Outlines are great ways, one page, to kind of get yourself started and organized in how you're going to do a paper. Maybe the beginning of the outline are the topics you're going to cover. Maybe it's like 2, 3, 4, whatever the assignment's calling for. Then each paragraph could be one of those, explaining one of those topics, and then your conclusion. Writing up a draft and then submitting it either through Thinking Storm or making an appointment on TutorTrack to go over it with a tutor is a great idea. And then making sure you proofread. No lowercase i's. Everything is grammatically correct. In my class, I don't take a whole lot of points off for it, but other classes, they will. So I want you to be prepared for that. And so that's just a little example of what I'm looking for you to do with your study skills topic and upload it onto our discussion board and be able to comment on your classmates' creations as well. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about how to do a presentation. Don't be nervous. Try to have fun with it. Be creative. And we'll see what everybody does. Take care and good luck on the Study Skills Project.